Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I'm Luke Monster. Today we're going to be doing a wave overview of the Star Wars: The Black Series 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi Wave 3. And Wave 3 is quite interesting because it only comes with 4 figures: Vader, the Royal Guard, R2, and Luke, compared to the last 2 waves, which had 5 figures each. So this one's quite interesting. I fully believe that they had 5 figures planned for this wave, and then one was removed for some reason. I'm guessing maybe it was a repack of General Lando, and because he pegwormed so much, they ended up just picking him out from the wave. Who knows, it's hard to tell, but unfortunately, we only got 4 instead of 5 figures on this wave. But regardless, Hasbro did go all out on this wave because 3 of these 4 figures are actually brand new. Are they completely brand new head to toe? One of them is, but the other ones do have brand new pieces and they are not straight repacks, which is quite odd compared to the previous waves because most of those waves were just straight repacks. Maybe one of them was new, but for the most part, this was the new wave of Return of the Jedi figures, and they saved the best for last, that is for sure. But that is really what this video is for. Today we're going to be looking at these figures, and I'm going to let you guys know if this wave is worth a purchase or not. So obviously, first up here, I think the most popular one from this wave will be Darth Vader. And I think this Vader, for the most part, is really, really good. Now, it is on the Empire Strikes Back body, so it does have great articulation with the butterfly joints in the arms, so you can get a good range of articulation there. And he does have some new pieces with the removable hand, so you can add on the broken hand if that's something you would like, which is really, really nice. And then it does have the removable helmet, where the helmet does come apart into 3 different pieces, and you do have that amazing face sculpt underneath. The problem with this figure, though, is that this helmet does not want to actually stay on Vader. They designed the figure to have these little grooves on the helmet, and so when you go to put it on the figure, the grooves should just snap into place, but unfortunately, it doesn't fit, and I know pretty much every figure I've seen has this exact same problem. It's not just my figure, it's a release-wide problem, and unfortunately, it's not something I've found a solution to. But either way, you can kind of just sit it on here, and it looks alright. There is a little bit of a gap, but I mean, it kind of gets the job done for what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to be a Vader figure, and it looks really good if you just set it on there, but it's incredibly loose. It's not going to stay on. So for Vader, I think the real verdict comes down to whether or not you plan to have his helmet on display or not. Because if you're buying this to keep the helmet on, I think that that's a decent option, but I think if you're specifically buying it to keep the helmet on, there are better options. And specifically to keep the helmet on, I say you should go with the Empire Strikes Back version, which for the most part has the exact same body here. Only difference is he does not have a removable helmet. The helmet here is one mold, and so if you're planning to keep the helmet on, this one is the way to go. But me personally, I specifically bought this Vader for the helmet to stay off, because I have several helmeted Vaders already, and so because of that, I think this one is a pickup for me personally. But like I said, if you want to specifically keep the helmet on at all times, this one is probably not for you. Next up is the Imperial Royal Guard, and this one is just a straight re-release of previous versions of the Royal Guard we've gotten, and so because of that, it's not necessarily the most desirable figure from the wave, but it is pretty desirable to the fact that I know a lot of people skipped on the first few releases of this, me included, so this is actually my first version of the character. And so this was a great re-release for me, just for the fact that I didn't have it. But I would really suggest this figure for anybody who already has the Emperor figure, because he looks great next to the Emperor. Let me grab him here. Just as kind of like what he's supposed to do. He's a guard, and so if you have him guarding your Emperor figure, it looks really, really good. And so that's the main reason I would buy this, and the main reason I would suggest you guys to buy it, is to kind of just put on display with your Emperor. If you don't have an Emperor figure, this one might not be for you, but for me personally, I think it's going to look great on the shelf. And as far as re-releases goes, it was a great opportunity for me to get a hold of this figure, and I know a lot of people probably feel the same way. Next up here is the R2 figure, and this one is gotta be one of my favorites from this wave, to the fact that this is the only brand new figure head to toe, or I guess dome to wheels, in this wave, and they absolutely knocked it out of the park with this guy. He does have a ton of accessories which can be stored on the figure, which is great because they're pretty tiny accessories and they tend to get lost somewhat easily. Now, there are some panels on the top of his head which can be popped off for the little accessories, as well as these little panels on the side here, which are a pain in the butt to get opened, and I'm probably not going to be able to do here, so if you have nails, that'd be great. Unfortunately, I don't have many nails at the moment, and so I'm having trouble getting these panels open. But I did find if you just get a knife, you can kind of wedge it in there pretty easily, and you pretty much just peg those little, I guess, accessories right into those holes, and it looks good. Now, there are also these little panels here on the front, which do open up, which I actually missed on my first review of the figure, but there's no reason to open these at all because there's no arms that swing out. And so I thought this was interesting. I love the fact that they added this piece of articulation and they added that detail in, but there's no reason really to open it because there's no arms that come out because of it. So interesting there, but this other one does come out as well. And then of course he does have the third leg, which can be pulled out to go into his rolling stance, which is really nice. You don't have to do this stupid twisty thing to get it out. And yeah, overall, this is definitely the most improved figure of the bunch. And this is a must pick up for any Black Series collection. I have to say it. If you don't have an R2 or you have the previous version of R2, because for example, this was the scale of the old R2. As you can see, the old one is much, much underscaled. And so this one is the proper Black Series scale, which is nice, as well as it's just got so much more features and so much more playability that the original one did not have. So if you have an R2 or you don't have an R2, this one is a must pick up for any Black Series fan. Next up is Luke Skywalker, and this is the most surprising figure from the bunch that I absolutely loved. Now, this one does just reuse the Mando Luke body, but it does have a few new pieces, including this chest piece here, which is swappable, so you can have the flap down, or you can have the flap up. I prefer the flap down look, so let's go ahead and put that back on, but overall, this is my favorite figure from the wave, hands down. I think the likeness to Mark Hamill here is incredible, as well as the haircut. This is one of the best Mark Hamill haircuts we've ever gotten. I think it is much better than the Mandalorian Luke version, but I do think that one reason that this figure is better than the Mando Luke, which I've actually got right here, so I'll go ahead and stand him up, is that he doesn't have this big gray tunic, which I do like the look of the tunic, but the tunic does get in the way of the butterfly joints here, and so this Luke can actually get into some much more dynamic poses because he doesn't have that tunic. And I actually really, really like that for this figure, and I don't really hate the look of the exposed butterfly joints. I know some people don't like it, but it doesn't bother me much, and I think it looks really, really good for this figure. And so I think the real question comes down to, if you already own this Mandalorian Luke, should you buy this version of Luke? And honestly, I think that just comes down to personal preference. Me personally, I prefer this outfit over the tunic look in The Mandalorian. While I do love this cloak, I do prefer this look, and so this one is personally worth the pickup to me. Now, that might change for you, so take it with a grain of salt and really put your collection in mind when deciding if you want to pick up this figure or not. But honestly, this one is going to be my second favorite Luke, right behind Dagobah Luke, which is right here. This one is my favorite Luke of all time, and it's definitely one of the best figures Hasbro's ever made, hands down. But as far as my favorite Luke Skywalkers go, if I can get this guy to stand up, this one comes in at number 2. This one is number 1, of course, but this one is a great figure, in my opinion, and I do think it's worth a pickup if you find him in stores. So, should you go out and buy this wave once it hits stores? Again, I think that comes down to your personal opinion. Me personally, I picked up all these guys because I think they're all great, and they all serve a purpose in my collection. I really wanted a maskless Vader to go on my shelf, and this one provides for that, but again, if you're looking for a helmeted Vader, that one's probably not for you. As far as the Royal Guard goes, he looks great next to the Emperor, and I didn't have one yet, so easy pickup. R2 is another one that I believe that every Black Series collector should have. He's in almost every movie, so there's not a shelf you really couldn't put him on. And plus, he is a huge upgrade compared to the old version. And as far as this new Luke goes as well, it is also one of the best Lukes in the line, but it's one of those where you have to look at your own collection. If you have a bunch of Lukes and you don't want any more, maybe that's one you should skip on, but me personally, it is a very, very needed upgrade for my collection, and I'm happy to pick it up. So let me know down in the comments below if you want this wave, if you want to pick it up, if you're planning on it, and if you did enjoy the video, make sure to go down and hit the like button and subscribe. And thank you all so much for watching. I'll see y'all in the next video.